All right, everyone. How's it going tonight? It's Thursday again, and we are back here in the studio with this time with Rahul from Tobacco Leaf. And yeah, that's it. How's it going?
Good.
Good to have you. Good to have you.
Good to be here. Thanks.
So we'll be having some people joining us, I'm sure, in a few minutes.
Awesome.
So usually it starts off a little bit slow, a little bit quiet.
Sure.
And then people get on.
Yeah, got to give everybody.
Yeah. So we've got. There's one more person coming on right there. You can kind of see the top of the screen, the count. There we go.
It doesn't say who, though.
It doesn't say who. They have to identify them. So if you're out there, identify yourself. Let us know. And we're here again. It's Thursday. It's pretty nice, the weather, I think, right?
It's beautiful. I was driving home from the shop, actually, and there was this amazing sunset. It was like bright orange, and it was beautiful. It was definitely.
Oh, I missed that.
I rarely get to see those because I'm usually still at work at this time. So coming home was a nice treat to be able to see that.
So how's work been?
Work's been good. It's been fairly busy, like like we had talked about earlier. I guess COVID has everybody smoking more, and people are definitely partaking more in the hobby. People not traveling as much and whatnot. So I guess they also have some discretionary income to spend on some of these vices. So we're seeing a lot of customers, a lot of new customers and things like that, which is good.
So a lot of new customers.
Yeah, I mean, okay. for from what we can tell, a lot of new customers. I mean, we've been in our new location, for about a year now. If you're unfamiliar, we're a cigar shop located just south of Baltimore, kind of in between Baltimore and DC, right off of Route 95 or Interstate 95, by the name of Tobacco Leaf. And we just did a pretty elaborate build out. We bought a diner and converted it into a cigar shop. So, it definitely gets.
One suggestion before you try to look at the lens.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Otherwise, it looks all shady. It starts to look shady. And
no worries.
People are wondering.
So, a lot of people have been kind of coming out to check out the place for the first time. They've heard about it and whatnot. So, we've been really happy with the response, and we're always very glad to see some new faces, and we're glad to see them come back, regularly as well. So.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
But then, so this new place that you've built, it opened a year ago, right?
Yeah, it's been almost a year now to the day, actually.
Oh, yeah, today, because it was right. You had the.
It's been more than a year now, a little bit over a year.
But you had the Tatuai event right about.
Yeah, that was on the 26th of September, if I recall correctly. 23rd or 26th, so a few days removed.
I got those escassos in that time, that last event. That was really nice.
Yeah, those are good.
All right, so tonight we're smoking. As always, we're drinking coffee and smoking cigars. Today's coffee is the Finca Santa Lucia. It's a red honey processed coffee from Costa Rica, made by Edgar Perez, and really great coffee. Actually, this is really an interesting one where if you ever see the packaging on the bag, you see Ricardo on the front of the bag, and he's reaching down and touching these. It's hard to see, but he's reaching down and grabbing these beans. This is actually the beans that are in the bag. They were on the drying patios when I saw them, and I was just intrigued. He was telling us that it was a red honey process, so I picked them up and I smelled them. They had this really beautiful, like tropical mango kind of aroma, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the coffee that we want to buy from you. And so I kind of bought it a little bit sight unseen, but I thought it was really significant. So that's how we ended up with it, and it's really great. So we're going to brew that. I've already ground the coffee. We're going to brew it in the. Would you grab one of those these things right here? Oh, sorry. First, this. We're going to brew it in the Chemex, as always. Whoops. How do you brew coffee at home? Do you drink coffee at home? I guess
really. I do.
Uh-huh.
Usually, in the mornings, we have a French press.
Are you drinking serious coffee?
Yeah, not Folgers.
Oh, what kind of coffee do you buy? Do you buy for home?
Well, I usually buy stuff from Mom's or Mom's Organic Market. Various things. I mean, I'm not a coffee expert, but I like kind of more medium roast coffees, medium blend, nothing too acidic, and nothing too strong or bitter. So
Okay.
well, yeah.
This won't be any of those.
Okay, good.
At least not the bitter. So this is the Chemex, and the Chemex is, this pour-over type of brewer from Massachusetts, from a place called Pittsfield. And this guy, Schlumbaum, developed it in the 1940s. If you watch the show, something like Schlumbaum. If you've watched the show before, you've seen me brewing with this thing, and it's a pretty simple device. It uses a pine-based filter that is quite nice. All right, that's good. So how did you say you brew coffee at home?
Typically French press.
Oh, French press.
When there's not enough time, Keurig, but typically.
You have a Keurig?
Yeah.
How is that?
It's not bad. I mean, there's this good Colombian coffee that we buy from Trader Joe's. It's actually pretty decent.
I haven't been to a Trader Joe's in well over a year.
Really?
I just never get the chance.
Well, you have to stand in line these days because they're it's ridiculous how busy they always are.
Oh, really? You have to stand in line out there?
I mean, my wife is the one who typically goes, but yeah, you have to stand in line from. I'm sure it's gotten a little bit better now with things kind of relaxing a little bit more, but I know that when we were kind of at the height of the pandemic, so to speak, a few months back, that you had to stand in line, often sometimes half an hour, 45 minutes to get inside. So that was unfortunate. Wow. I'm glad I didn't have to deal with that.
You're like, David,
poor wife.
You're like, I love you. I can't go with you.
Yeah.
I can't go with you.
We got this, babe.
All right, so for those of you watching at home, what are you guys smoking and what are you drinking? Those are the things that we want to know here in the studio. All right, looking good. So it always takes a little bit of time to brew. Ideally, with this kind of brewing, you want the brew to finish within 4 minutes. I didn't time this one, so it's probably close. It should be pretty close to 4 minutes. That way you get the right amount of extraction yield, that's scientific stuff, from the coffee into your liquid.
But correct me if I'm wrong, all the water isn't exactly sitting with the grounds for 4 minutes, because what you're saying that it has to brew for 4 minutes. When you first poured it, the coffee that you first poured, the water already strained through, and it's not brewing anything.
That's correct. So here's the thing. So
whereas in a French press, the water actually is sitting with the coffee and the grounds and everything until you strain the beans out.
Right, and so with the difference, so the big difference between, say something like this, pour over where the water's just constantly flowing through it, and versus your French press where it's just soaking, is the grind of your coffee. So for your French press, you want it to be very coarse. Mm-hmm. Because it'll be in full contact with water for 4 minutes. So if you had this medium fine grind, you would then extract too much of the solubles, and then you get more bitter flavors out of the coffee in the French press. Whereas this one, because it's flowing through and it's at a finer grind than the French press, it's getting the solubles that it's coming out, and as it's flowing through, it just kind of flows through, and then it doesn't over-extract it if you do it right.
So the coffee grinds here are finer than what you would use in a French press.
That is correct. That is.
So then I've been brewing maybe my French press coffee wrong all this time. Is
it pretty fine?
Fairly fine. I don't have one of those super high-end grinders either, though. Nothing like you have here. So.
Well, you can always get one. It's not. We're not grinding with anything too fancy here. Not like at the shop. Yeah. Those are the fancy grinders. All right, so that's the brewing. Pass those mugs over. Let's pour some of those out. All right, so we're gonna pour here for you. All right, excellent. Cheers to a little bit more. We got a little bit more left. Let's put that over there. Thank you. All right, so let's do a little tasting of the coffee. What do you think? What are you getting? Any thoughts yet, or it's still too hot?
It's fairly medium. It's kind of very bright and has a little bit of acidity. I wouldn't say it's overly acidic.
Those tropical notes are kind of coming in. It's citrusiness.
Yeah, definitely like a citrusy kind of that. It's got like a very sharp kind of tart type of, not really tart, but very flavorful. Yeah, it's good. Should go really well with the cigars that we're going to smoke.
I hope so. I'm hoping so. Speaking of which, let's get into that. So the cigars, cool, come from, of course, Tobacco Leaf. Like we've been getting the cigars for the last few episodes. And if you haven't heard, Tobacco Leaf is Rahul, and Rahul is Tobacco Leaf, right?
This is true.
So today's cigar is the what? Fonseca Robusto.
Yes, Fonseca Robusto. It's made by My Father Cigars out of Nicaragua. Fonseca is it's actually traditionally a Cuban marca that has been around for quite some time. And in fact, it still exists today. There's still cigars coming out of Cuba with the Fonseca name. But like some of the other brands that are available in the market today, there was blends and versions that were available for the U.S. market, grown and made in the DR, Honduras, and Nicaragua. And I guess I don't know the whole backstory behind, I guess the My Father brand and their interest in the Fonseca brand itself. But recently they actually purchased the rights. They purchased the brand from the previous owners and went through a whole process of reblending the cigars, repackaging the cigars. But they try to kind of maintain some of the the things that were unique or inherent to the brand, like the big F. It's kind of like an Old English F on the logo, if you can see it. And then I guess some of the packaging traits, they have a specific size that comes in tissue paper and stuff like that, which is kind of unique. So they did a good job trying to pay homage to the fact that, of what the Fonseca brand has kind of traditionally been known as, or has been recognized as. So this is a fairly medium-bodied cigar. It's got good flavor, and this comes in several sizes. But the Robusto is the one we're going to smoke today, which is 5 1/4 by 52.
Have you smoked these before already?
I haven't had all the sizes. I believe there's 5 or 6.
There are six. There's a Petit Corona, a Cusacos that is 5 3/8 by 42, a Delicoso, a Toro Gordo, and then a Petit Corona, and then the Robusto.
So yeah, I've smoked. This will be my second Robusto. I've smoked the Cosacos size, the smaller one, and the Robusto.
So what's your impression so far of the Robusto?
I enjoyed the first one that I smoked. This will be my second one. Trying it for the second time now. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I mean, for me, it was one of those cigars that I can smoke, any time of the day, which is good because you don't have to have worried about having something to eat, or it's not too strong, it's not too mild, it's got good flavor, so you can smoke it at the end of the night, or after you've already had a couple cigars, or you could smoke it first thing in the morning with a cup of coffee, or when you first wake up. So that's kind of what I enjoyed about it most. And for me, those are the cigars that I typically enjoy the most because I'll smoke under all kinds of different circumstances and whatnot. So whereas if you find something that's a little bit fuller bodied, you have to kind of be up for it. And something really light, it's not going to have the same flavor after you've smoked a couple other cigars before, or if you're just smoking it in the evening when you may have had a meal or something like that.
Well, you know what I'm smelling the wrapper. Are you supposed to do that? Are we supposed to do that? Is that copacetic? Anyway, so smelling the wrapper, what strikes me the most is this very familiar aroma of, for lack of a better term, of a really nice Cuban cigar. One that's not more like one that's kind of like the Monte Cristo #2, like a really nice Monte Cristo #2, which is kind of surprising because it's made by my father, so I kind of expected to have more of that. Well, I kind of fear it being more peppery and
pungent and
that black pepper pungency.
Nicaraguan, typical Nicaraguan flavor notes that you're used to. Is this your first time smoking this?
This is my first time smoking it.
I think you're gonna enjoy it.
And it's interesting. Like before, as I was putting together the show notes for today, there's actually a dearth of information about this cigar. Like almost no one has really reviewed it. Actually, I didn't really find any serious reviews about it. Like usually you see people like Half Wheel that have a big review, or maybe Ministry of Cigars and things like that. There's really not much out there. There was a little bit from Cigar King. Cigar Aficionado had a little small blurb, and then Holtz had just a little short blurb about it. But
I'm not sure because this is one of the newer cigars that's come out. I mean, due to the COVID pandemic and whatnot, I think a lot of the manufacturers have been delayed in launching some of their new products. Typically, this is the time of.
Oh, the battery. The battery's not supposed to die like that.
Are we still recording then? Presume not.
We're still rolling, but we have to replace the battery.
Well,
shit, I don't know what to deal with that. That's shit.
So there's no one listening or watching?
Right now, probably not, because this is what's feeding the audio.
Tony Masoto says, my father doesn't always do pepper forward, though it is present a lot. We got George Shem on the call as well.
Yeah, George and Tony are usually there.
Oh, we still have audio. Thank you, Tony.
Do we still have audio? Okay, good.
Good.
We still have audio? How's that possible?
Sorry about that, guys. We're having some technical difficulties, as you probably figured out. There we go.
We're back? Okay, good.
Yeah, we're back. We lost our...
Sorry about that, everyone.
Our camera.
No, I'm using the camera as every week. However, I have a aftermarket battery. So this camera is supposed to continuously trickle charge and supposed to be able to operate for hours on end. And I've got a third-party battery in it, so I guess that doesn't work as well.
Yeah.
So we're back again. All right, so what did Tony say? Tony says the usual diet cherry pepper to drink and a 3-year-old sober mesa is in the smoke for tonight. Oh, nice.
Very nice.
And then George is saying Tabernacle with some Hess Select Cabernet. Oh, nice.
Ooh, that's a really good wine. I've never had Hess wine before, but it's...
I wonder if Hess is doing all right. Because Hess is California, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I wonder if they're still there. I hope they're still there. Because
of the fires?
Yeah, some of the wineries have burned.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I've heard it's good wine. Anyways.
All right, so let's get. So how is the have you tried the cold on?
Oh yeah.
It's supposed to be a formal review, don't it? What do you get? What are you getting? You're the tobacconist, so.
I get some kind of bready, kind of vegetal notes, almost like you would get from a Cuban style cigar. It definitely, when you put it up to your mouth, you don't really get a strong pepper, like you sometimes would from other Nicaraguan cigars. So that tells me that it's not going to be that strong, and not going to have a large prevalence of pepper.
That's good, because sometimes I don't really know if I don't usually fall in line with the pepper.
Yeah.
The black pepper, that's really prevalent of my father's cigars. I love the Tatuaya stuff.
Right. But
typically the my father stuff, that pepper just kind of doesn't really suit my palate.
Well, like Tony mentioned, not all of the blends have that strong pepper taste. And sometimes you might get it when you first light up the cigar or in the first, third of it. And then oftentimes it kind of backs down.
So are there My Father branded cigars that don't have the pepper?
Yeah, I mean, and those honestly are the kind of why I like this one. Those are the ones that I often find myself buying, or not buying, but smoking regularly.
You've already bought everything.
Yeah, I've already bought everything that I've smoked. So, the Series JJ is one of my favorites.
Okay.
And I really like the El Centurion, the H2K, which is a Habano wrapper grown in Connecticut. So those are my favorite My Fathers. The ones that you can just pick up and smoke. You don't really have to think about it.
Okay, good point. And George says that the My Father Connecticut's also not pepper heavy.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one of their milder offerings, trying to appeal to, someone who's looking for a little bit of a milder cigar. But it's still got good flavor, which is nice. A lot of the times you smoke a Connecticut, sometimes some of the Dominican Connecticut's and the brands that, we've heard of all our lives, like Macanudo and Romeo and Julieta, and they almost have no flavor. And it's kind of boring to have to, suffer through one of those cigars that has no flavor. So a lot of the new Nicaraguan Connecticut's tend to appeal to real cigar smokers who, want something a little bit lighter. So should we light this up?
Yeah, let's light up.
You gotta figure out how this comes
out. It's not like this. So this is the Jetline G4000. You need to, there's a little tab here.
Futuristic.
So futuristic. I bought it because I really like the idea of it. It looks like a phaser.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to push down, see how the arrow push down here, and then push forward on the button. And it's kind of aggressive. Now push forward. No, push like this. You want to push down, then.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
All kinds of difficulties today, Jay. No, don't do that.
Uh-oh. Right, this is so many pumps. Let me get something else here.
I have live. I don't think it has butane.
Well, it looks like I have to get either way. Butane or lighter. Yeah, let me see. Let's see.
Well, my whole day's been kind of like this. Just one thing after the other. But anyways, I'm glad to see some of our regulars and Tony and George on the call and or viewing actually. I hope you guys are doing well out there. Jay just came back with all kinds of fire.
I have brought refills, another lighter.
What the hell is this shit?
This is butane.
This is butane?
And matches, just in case.
Butane?
Yeah, whip it.
This is not what we recommend.
Uh-oh, what did he recommend? A tobacco leaf.
Ultra purified.
This is ultra purified. This is from the Northern Sea.
Yeah?
Oh, that's what people tell me. I don't know. Tony would tell you all about it. Northern Sea, blah, 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 all kinds of... It says a little about
You need to have Tony on this.
We will in the future.
He's,
is that working? Or you want to try the other one?
See, look, it's spewing out.
Yeah, this one's working.
Cheap butane.
Oh, there you go. Is that what you sell at the shop, the cheap one?
No. We sell only the best.
Do you have a favorite lighter at the shop?
One that works. I like single flame lighters. I don't really like the triple and the double and the triple and the quad jet flame things. I mean, they're okay, but I don't like to scorch my cigar.
Do you so you roast your cigar normally? Is that...
Yeah. I like to get a nice, good burn kind of going. You can see that, you can't really see it, but it should be kind of red when you light it. Make sure all the tobacco is thoroughly lit.
All right, good. We're rolling now.
definitely, it has some spice on the retrohale, you know, when you first light it up.
You know, I still can't do this retrohale thing. I have tried a number of times. Like Al's always trying to encourage me to try it. And oh, there we go. Maybe that's it. It's burning my throat. Is that right?
No, it usually, so basically, you know, you try to relax the back part of your mouth and you just kind of let the smoke, obviously, or the...
I'm not used to relaxing the back of my throat.
Well, it has a tendency to travel up.
Terrible.
So, you know, what happens is you let it, you relax the back of your throat, and the smoke travels up into your nasal passages. And then that allows you to kind of experience some more flavors. It burns, you know, it burns a little bit more. So not really in your throat, but more in your nose, actually.
Oh, I'm getting it now. I don't know what I'm getting though, but I'm getting something. Something is burning the back of my nostrils.
Yeah, so basically it allows you to kind of experience the flavors a little bit more.
God, that's not good.
And you know, if it's a strong cigar, it can definitely, if you're not used to it, can be bothersome.
So, do you find a much more greater depth of experience with the?
I like to do it every so often, every certain amount of puffs, just to kind of see the progression of the cigar. I mean, it's not necessary to smoke your entire cigar that way. I think it's, you know, that would be really hard to do. But it just allows you to kind of experience some more flavor. So it's important. So, you know, a lot of times when these, you know, cigar review websites and things like that are talking about cigars and they're detailing these, you know, these crazy flavors like zests of orange peel and nutmeg and anise, and you know, a lot of those flavors are probably experienced, from retrohaling. You know, whereas you won't necessarily taste those cigars or taste those flavors if you're just kind of smoking it, like, you know, the way you're supposed to.
Okay. We do more testing with that. So what is it? So quote of the night: don't
do that.
When I was looking at the
and Tony says the green top is the zero impurities from the North Sea, which this doesn't have a green top.
I was told that. Let me see that. I was told that this was the same.
It says whippet butane.
I mean, it's supposed. So,
it looks really tacky. If it's supposed to be like high quality stuff, it just looks really cheap for whatever reason.
No, it doesn't say anything about the North Sea. I was told that there was two different types, and the difference was just the packaging.
So, anyways, what do you think about the cigar so far?
Actually, I thought it's a little bit spicy.
You think so? Really?
Yeah, a little bit. Not spicy like my father black pepper spicy, but just a light spiciness.
Initially,
I don't know if that's because maybe I've been trying to do that retrohale thing, so it's kind
I think so.
maybe burning the
It
back
kind
of
of
my
backs. It kind of backs down pretty quickly. It just gets kind of into this like toasty breadiness. So what's been going on? I guess
what's been going on? You know, the rent. That's what's going on. It's the first. It's the first of the month. So it's rent day. It's rent day.
We just got a call from from our loan officer for our bank, and he was asking us because we were catching up after some time about how things are going and this and that, COVID and whatnot. So a lot of these guys have to do their check-ins, their reporting, make sure that they're going to be able to.
It's not foreclosure time.
No, that's foreclosure. Well, they want to make sure it's not foreclosure time, So, so I had a nice chat with him, and like I had mentioned earlier, thankfully things seem to be going fairly well. People seem to be enjoying more cigars these days, and we're definitely thankful.
So cigar consumption is up. Is that correct?
I mean, yeah, it definitely seems that way. There's also some shortages in product. I don't necessarily think it's because the demand has skyrocketed. I think that there's definitely some logistical issues and just production issues, because if you think about the fact that a lot of these factories down in Nicaragua and Honduras and Dominican Republic had people kind of sitting as close as we are, and there was really large rooms filled with, hundreds and hundreds of maybe thousands of rollers working at one time simultaneously. They've had to kind of modify that to, lessen the amount of people in one room.
Right.
And so their production as a result has probably decreased. Maybe they're doing like split shifts and things like that. Then there's also logistical issues. So some countries were, as far as transportation and stuff like that is concerned, because some countries were shut down, and just products being able to get from one area to another, there might be delays in that. So we found that on the supply side that some of the products have not been available. Sometimes there's delays. If they are available, they're not available like in vast amounts. So if we order a particular box of cigars, say 10 boxes of something, the company might only ship us 2. Just to make sure that they can spread the product around, and it isn't like a first come, first serve type of thing. So coupled, so you have production and logistical transportation issues, coupled with what seems to be an increase in demand. Some of the cigars have been hard to get, or not in ample supply like they normally are.
What's the hardest right now?
I mean, honestly, it's kind of spread across the board. Obviously, there's been, if you're really familiar with cigars and you smoke Maduros, there's been a broadleaf Maduro shortage. So that's some of those products have been really hard to get because there just, isn't enough product. There isn't enough material to make the cigars. But just brands that you would never consistently have any issues getting as far as back orders and things like that.
No, they're backward now.
Yeah, a lot of brands are not fulfilling the quantities, the desired quantities.
So when that happens, so if they're saying that you order 10 boxes and they're shipping you 2, does that mean that you're also now ordering 20 or 30 instead of 10?
It depends.
In order to
it depends. I mean, even then, sometimes it doesn't matter what you order. They'll just look at that order, and if they're really in a situation where they don't have enough product, it doesn't matter. You could order 100 or 200 boxes. They're not going to send you more than what they can send you. So there's no sense of really padding your order that much in hopes that if you're looking to get 10 and you order 100, thinking, okay, well maybe they'll ship me all 10. Probably not going to happen. It could. And then if it does, where they send you more than you need, you better hope that you're able to sell it, because you don't ever know.
Oh, they don't tell you beforehand.
They don't tell you, well, if you order 100, you're under the assumption that you're going to get all 100. They may not tell you at that time, well, I can't send you 100, and
I mean, when at the time that it comes to ship, will they just ship you whatever?
They'll ship you whatever they can ship
without letting you know how much they're actually shipping.
No,
until
they'll
it
just
arrives.
Send you the invoice essentially. You'll get the product.
Well, it's interesting. Like even in the coffee side of things, like the Chemex is a great example. I've run into a situation where the Chemex company was like, "Well, I placed an order a few weeks ago." And they were like, "Well, it's going to be an 8-week lead time." And I was like, 8-week lead time? That's like 2 months.
Right.
So I told our person, I said, "Hey, you know what? Let's process this order. If it takes 2 months, well, that sucks. But put me another order for the similar, because that means it'll be like nearly 4 months from now."
Right.
So it's like, which will be fine in 4 months. But
what is that attributed to? Just they can't keep up with the demand.
I think it's the same thing that you talked about. Like their manufacturing can't keep up with the demand. People are at home, and I'm not sure. I think they manufacture some of it here, so it's like, again, what you're saying. I didn't think about the whole, roll. How many rollers can you put in a factory? But it's probably the same issue. Yeah, because even David Garofalo from Cigar Authority was talking about the shortage, and he says that they're starting to raise prices. Is that true? Have you seen that?
Not that we've seen. I mean, cigars tend to go up every year anyway. Not every brand, but there's usually between a 1% and 3%, sometimes up to 5% increase in cigars. So depends on the brands. I think a lot of manufacturers realize that that they don't want to take advantage of the situation, even though there's consumers are willing to, are buying more cigars. I think they're trying to do what they can to, sure that their costs have increased like anybody else's who's running a business these days. You know, with just some of the testing or maybe the sanitization methods that are required. I mean, and obviously those costs a lot of times end up being the burden of the consumer. But I think most companies, reputable companies, will try to absorb as much of those costs as possible. So.
So how's it coming along?
Well, that spice has definitely died down a little bit. We're probably finishing up the first quarter of the cigar. It's just a really pleasant cigar to enjoy. Like it's not overpoweringly it's not overpoweringly strong or anything like that. It's got some good flavor. Not a ton of complexity per se, but the flavor that it does has is enjoyable.
It's not a wow cigar so far.
No, I wouldn't say that it's a wow cigar.
Like some cigars start off like gangbusters, and you're just like, there's complexity and like spice and flavor, or just flavor. This one is relatively mild, relatively.
It's pretty much going to remain, from what I recall, it'll remain the same way through. So it has good flavor. The flavors don't really transition too much.
So it's pretty static, is what you're saying, through the whole cigar?
If I recall correctly, yeah.
Okay.
But of course, when you're smoking different sizes in each blend, sometimes sizes play a difference as far as the blend is concerned. So certain sizes might show more flavors or more progressions, so to speak, as opposed to other sizes. So there is and oftentimes they tend to be cigars that are thinner ring gauges and whatnot. So there is a thinner size in this. So this is a 52 ring gauge.
52, 5 1/4 by 52.
There's a size that's 42, which is 10 millimeters.
Oh yeah, the Cosacos. Yeah. You said you smoked that one, right?
Yeah, I enjoy that one. That's the one with the tissue full tissue paper wrap.
Oh yes. They also have a Cedros. Did you get that too? Or did you get all sizes?
Not all the sizes. I think we got 4 of the 6.
Okay.
So we didn't get the Bellicoso, I think, and we didn't get the Petite Corona.
Is that because, so in something like this where there's 6 sizes, and you didn't get certain sizes, is that because you don't have a customer base that really likes that size?
Yeah, or? Sometimes there's 6 sizes. There's some redundancy in the sizes. So, the Petite Corona being 4 1/4 by 40 is not really that much different than the Cosacos, for example. It's 5 3. It's by 42. So it's 2 millimeters on the ring gauge and about an inch or so on the length. So when you have a pretty large selection of cigars and they make certain brands, I mean, sometimes depending on the line, there might be 10 sizes that are offered. You can't carry them all. So we try to pick the sizes that are generally the most popular, and if there's something really unique like a Lancero or a Salomon shape or something like that, we try to offer that because it's a unique cigar that isn't made in every size. But Robusto, Toro, Churchill, or Torpedo, those are kind of the standard sizes in almost every line. So we try to carry, if not all, at least a good number of those, and then maybe offer something that's a little unique, or something where it could be just a specific blend shines in one particular size. So we try to offer that.
I see. So, but you said you if it was available in Lancero, you try to bring those in.
Not all Lanceros, but yeah.
But do you find that there are people in your market that like Lanceros enough to bring them in?
So we have a pretty we have a very diverse customer base, and we have some guys that seek out Lanceros or like these unconventional shapes and sizes. So we try to offer cigars for those customers who like those sizes. And in the area, we have a reputation for having some of those sizes, whereas you go to some of the other shops and their selections are more vanilla in that sense, where it's the typical Robusto, Toro, Churchill, and that's pretty much all you'll find. Or now, the bigger ring gauges seem to be pretty popular as well, like the 6x60. And in this case, they don't make a 60, but they make a 55 ring gauge. So we definitely have that because we have an audience that likes that thicker size.
It makes you kind of wonder, why didn't they go to a larger ring gauge if it's so much popularity happening now?
Probably they didn't feel like the blend would perform well. Maybe since this is more of a medium-bodied cigar, maybe some of the flavors would be lost in a bigger ring gauge. So maybe 55 was probably the biggest that they went. I'm sure that they tried, because they do have other 60 ring gauge cigars.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah, so this is using a Nicaragua. It's actually what they call a Nicaragua puro. So it's all Nicaraguan tobacco. It has what we have here in the. So the wrapper is a Corojo 99 shade grown wrapper. So it's got a reddish color to it. And then it's, what did they say? So the binder filler also Nicaragua, but relatively unspecified. And then I also read somewhere that they grow their own leaf now. And so the wrapper comes from their own farm.
It's possible. I'm not.
I didn't know they were growing their own leaf.
Yeah, I mean, my father has a tremendous facility, and they've been around for, I think, close to 15 or 20 years now, nearing 20 years, and the amount of growth that they have, seen and that has happened within their company is tremendous. I mean, I've had the opportunity. I don't know if you've been down there to see their operations.
My father?
Yeah.
Yeah. I went there in 2011.
But it's changed, I'm sure, since then so much.
I got there right after, not too long after they opened.
Right.
Because Pete was down there. I happened to be in for coffee, and I called up Pete, and we met up, and they took me on a tour.
Yeah. So, now since then, they've been acquiring more and more land. Their factory has grown exponentially. So I'm not surprised that this is all tobacco that's grown and harvested and processed by them. A lot of times, depending on what type of tobacco is going into the blend, sometimes they have to purchase tobacco from other growers. But this seems to be, I think all of their tobacco. So that's great because and that's preferred. I would imagine from any cigar manufacturer, because then they can control the whole process, and they know exactly what it's going to taste like, and whereas where you're buying certain material to make something, some of that is out of your control, because you're not growing the tobacco. So.
Yeah, and they've got very extensive facilities. It's really impressive.
Yeah, for sure. And they do these tours too. So, if there's an opportunity for any of you guys in the audience to go out there, usually it's through a retailer, so you can visit their factories, and we got to spend 3 or 4 days down there, see their whole operation, A to Z, essentially. And it was, my first trip to a cigar factory, believe it or not, and it was eye-opening. The appreciation that you get for the work that goes into making these cigars is, if you didn't appreciate them already, you're going to appreciate them definitely at the end of that trip, because it's truly, a luxury handcrafted item almost from the beginning to the end, the final product. So it's definitely worth doing.
Well, I've always thought one of the more impressive things was when you go to the factories and you see the pre-industry section where they're building the pilons of the. So if you're not familiar, they bundle the tobacco and they put them in the bales, which are what they call pilons, and they're regulated by temperature, and so they build them and then they let them rise to a certain temperature, break them down, rebuild them again. But that takes like 2 years.
It can.
It's like you really start to see like, wow, this is some impressive stuff.
Yeah,
it's very true.
And it's nowadays with all these new factories and companies that are in the business now, they're using technology, and to the degree they're monitoring, the temperatures and the moisture content and everything with the leaves. So whereas years and years ago this was all done by touch and feel, so and not to say that they're only dependent on the technology. They obviously still use these generationally old methods and techniques, but it's made things a little bit easier obviously for them. to be able to rely on, on something like technology.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see what the people have to say. So Tony says there might be 5 times refined, or they do 5 different. So he's talking about the what's called the whippet butane, several different types. And then Eric's like, he loved the Fonsecas back in the day, and like some of my father products, interested in new blend. Should he buy a few?
Well, I mean, if you like the old Fonsecas, you should definitely try them just to see kind of what they're about. I mean, they're definitely an enjoyable cigar, and you can kind of formulate your own opinion. I, for one, have not really smoked any of the older Fonsecas from when they were grown and distributed by Quesada, for example. And nor have I had any of the Cuban Fonseca, so I really couldn't tell you how they compare. But if you're familiar, it's worth trying. I think it's a cigar you're going to enjoy it. Whether it's the same or better, I don't know. You'll have to be your own judge of that.
For me, it's been a long time since I had the old Fonseca. I mean, I smoked them in the 90s.
Yeah, it was a very popular brand.
It was.
I'm not sure what he's asking also, Eric. Will it pair well with
the Schweinhaxe?
I don't know what that is.
So Schweinhaxe is basically a pork shank that is slow roasted. I think it's slow roasted. It's really good.
It's delicious.
Yes, it will go well with the Schweinhaxe. And then George is saying, with all the labor involved, it's a miracle. Yes, that's true. It is a miracle they're not more expensive. Well, we're thankful that they're not more expensive.
We are thankful, but yes, if you get to go to one of these factory tours and you see, the painstaking amount of labor that's involved and what goes into making a premium cigar, you will never question the price of a cigar again. I can guarantee you that.
But the interesting thing is that I've got these boxes in my humidor, right, that are from the 90s, like Fuente green label stuff, and like some of them still have the prices. They're like
the price.
No, they're like maybe a quarter or less of the price, like $2,
really?
$2.35. And then I think in the early 90s, like 93, 94, the Partagas used to make a number 10, right cigar.
Selección
and that was pretty expensive at like $5 something.
Well, you like I said, cigars go up in price 3 to 5% on average every year. So you're talking about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, you extrapolate $3 and then you add 5% to it for 20 straight years. You're going to be at $8 or $9 probably. Pretty soon, before you know it, much sooner than you'd like to be.
For sure. My gosh, 25 years gone by like that. How old are you 25 years ago?
25 years ago, I was 10, so not even of smoking age. I probably sold you some cigars though.
Oh, here in Hunt Valley?
Yeah, maybe.
No, actually, I never really bought cigars. I didn't buy cigars. I didn't start smoking cigars until 1992, 93.
But you got some of our viewers smoking cigars. Tony.
Yes.
So you were in high school, right?
No. I was already in college. I was living in Hawaii back then. Oh, right. That's why I didn't really shop any cigars here.
Cigars in Hawaii are very expensive.
Oh God, yeah. Everything is very expensive there. Actually, it's because of my friends in Hawaii that I met, like Pete. Marvin introduced us to Pete's Cigars like in 2004, right? Within a year of him opening. Because I think Marvin was one of his very first accounts.
I think so. Because he had a special cigar that was made for him, the T110.
Oh, the T110, yeah, that was. Did you try that?
I had one, yeah, only one.
He gave you one?
No, I don't know how I got it. I think someone gave me one. I don't recall.
He never gave me one. Marvin, I'd like to have one day, someday.
It was good. It was enjoyable. But when I had it, supposedly when it first came out, it was one of the strong. It was a pretty strong cigar. But when I had it, it wasn't that strong. It was maybe 10 years later or something like that. So I don't even know how long when it was first released, but it was enjoyable. Even then, at the 10-year mark. Whatever it was.
So have you been to other factories besides my father?
So on that same trip, my father and I visited my father's cigars first, and then we made a brief stop at the Drew Estate factory, and then but that was less than probably 3 or 4 hour visit, and then we spent a couple days actually touring the Perdomo facility as well, which was also very impressive. You know, Perdomo is another brand that in 20 plus years, you know, has grown tremendously. I mean, from what I've read, Nick Perdomo was selling cigars out of a garage in Florida, and now he's, you know, one of the top 5 companies in you know, in the world of premium cigars. So him and his family have built a tremendous empire, and you know, they make a great product too. So
I've heard his factory is quite massive.
It's very big, yeah, very big operation. They have 3 factories, I believe, in Nicaragua.
Wow. All in Esteli or in other towns?
I believe they're all in Esteli.
Okay.
I can't recall exactly. The one that we visited was in Esteli.
Yeah, I saw that because I drove by it on the way to Aganorsa. Because I guess they're relatively close.
Yeah, all those a lot of those factories are like almost walking distance from one another. So,
did you go to Padron?
No, didn't go to Padron. I'd like to go one day, but they don't really do a lot of tours, from what I understand.
No, they don't. They don't like tours at all.
Yeah.
So I went with Marvin, right, after we did the Drew Estate in 2014. So Marvin knows George Padron pretty well. And so George's like, yeah, we'll give you a tour. So we go to the factory, right?
I think you told me the story.
Did I tell you this? Anyway, so we go to the factory, and the guard refuses to let us in. He's like, you know, he doesn't really say no. Actually, he just kind of blows us off. Like he probably thinks we're some kind of just cigar crazies that just want to see the factory. So he just kind of brushes us off, right? And so we're like, we're here to go see the tour. They're supposed to be expecting us, and he's like, of course. My Spanish is pretty weak, and the other guys can't speak Spanish. So, and he doesn't speak any English. So it's like, so finally it got to the point where Marvin had to call George in Miami on his cell phone and hand the security guard the phone. And only then did the security guard finally let us in.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It was funny. It was a funny time. But you know, it's interesting. You go to Padron, and it's like, if you've been to the other factories, like, I'm presuming that Perdomo's like this, or like my father is very modern, very nice, it's very nice, it's very presentable. Drew Estate's very presentable.
Mm-hmm.
Padron, not quite. It's just kind of like it's a workplace. They're doing serious work making their cigars. So you can see that it's not really geared to welcome tourists.
Yeah, probably, you know, on purpose, so to speak. So
Yeah.
You can also visit their factory if you're ever in Little Havana in Miami. You know, they have their warehouse. They don't really roll the cigars there per se. They just do the packaging there, from what I understand. But they might give you a tour of their facility there, but you don't really get a true appreciation for, you know, the cigars and what goes into making them when you're down there. So,
have you been down to Miami to see the?
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you go in Miami?
Well, I mean, we visited their factory or their warehouse.
Oh, you did get to visit them.
In Miami, yeah. So we were actually invited down when Padron did their 50th anniversary celebration back in 2014. They did a big party, and they invited, you know, their retailers, some of the, I guess, you know, the better performing retailers and whatnot, down to Miami, and they did this really big party. And it was really nice. So, you know, we were down there earlier, and we got to visit their factory. And I've been there a couple of times. Whenever we go to Miami, I try to visit, just to stop in and say hello. But yeah, if you're ever in Miami, go down. They're just like 2 blocks from Calle Ocho.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Did you go to other cigar places there?
Yeah, I've been to El Titan de Bronze, which is right on 8th Street.
I heard that's pretty small.
It's very small, and there's a lot of small shops there. There's the Gran Habanos right there as well. There's the old El Credito factory, which is where La Gloria Cubana was, you know, first started in the U.S., I believe. So there's a lot of, and then there's a lot of smaller, just, you know, smaller shops that are smaller, you know, companies rolling cigars right in front of you.
Now, as a retailer, have you ever thought about getting into the cigar making side of things?
Not so much like on a national distribution or to like wholesale to other accounts. I mean, I have definitely thought about developing like a house blend. We get often get asked about, do we have any, house blends, and I've definitely considered that. I think we're at this point now where we would, we have a good enough name in the local market to provide something like that. I've always been a little timid to do that though, or hesitant to do that because, I just feel like I don't know if I trust my palate enough to want to make a cigar for the masses, so to speak, or for our customer base, even though I know what they might like per se. But there's so much diversity in what people smoke, and I'm a pretty good judge of a good cigar, but I can't necessarily say what's good to me. It may not necessarily be good to someone else, So I could just pick something that I think I would like, and I'm sure that there would be people that would want to smoke it or would enjoy it. It wouldn't be for everybody, but not everything is for everyone.
Yeah, not everyone's for everyone.
So, yeah, I mean, I would definitely at some point consider doing that, soon, because to have your own cigar and to make sure that it's done correctly, you have to place a fairly sizable order.
Like if you were to do that, like how big order do you think you have to do? 10,000?
Depends who you're working with. If you're working with one of the bigger guys, then the numbers are obviously going to be larger. But for someone who might do something like a smaller private label, maybe 100, 150, 200 boxes or something like that, and you could spread that across a few different sizes. So it's not terribly huge, but I'm one store. So if I had several stores or something like that, then it would be, kind of more palatable. But maybe in the future.
So if you were to, just hypothetically, if you were to do your own, let's say you were to start thinking about really doing it, what kind of direction do you think you would go in for your initial offering?
I would try to do something like this, honestly, something kind of medium body that can appeal to a large audience, offer it in a couple different shapes, nothing crazy, maybe 2 shapes or 3 shapes, and then maybe have a natural, and then slowly at some point add a Maduro, and kind of go from there. I don't know. I haven't really given it a lot of thought, not a lot of serious thought. But,
Sure.
At some point, maybe.
All right, let's see what some comments have. So Tony says it does change your perspective, and he agrees with you about not questioning the price. So says the tobacconists. And then he also says the original Kohonu, I think he's talking about the Tatuai Kohonu, was definitely fuller bodied back in the day. I think I agree with you on that.
I think there's been a change in the wrapper. So I think he used to use Corojo wrapper before, and then it went to Habano wrapper, just because I guess the material wasn't available. Maybe the cost. I'm not sure.
Now, as someone that has an access to, like, if you haven't been to a shop, he's got quite a extensive selection of cigars that's kind of unparalleled in our area. And with such a wide access to cigars, do you have ones that stand out for you that you would gravitate towards just as a smoker on your own?
There's no one. I mean, I get asked this, often. What's my favorite cigar? And I don't really have a favorite cigar because there's just too many good cigars to have a favorite. It's really more about, well, what am I in the mood for at that particular time? So there's definitely certain brands that I find myself buying and smoking. Again, say buying, but smoking regularly.
Well, your buying is a little bit different than ours, so yeah. I get it.
So I find myself reaching for regularly. I love the My Father products, everything that they make. For the most part, I enjoy, and I tend to just, if I were to generalize, Nicaraguan cigars more so than Dominican and Honduran, just because they have so much more going on. As far as the Dominicans tend to be a little bit lighter, more grassy notes, but I still enjoy those too. Fuentes and the Davidoff brand, which we now also carry. So they're all good.
Do you have a favorite Davidoff?
Probably the 702, and I enjoy the Nicaragua, but that uses Nicaraguan tobacco. And then I really like the Millennium. As far as their regular production cigars, those are probably my two favorites. And then if you want something lighter, the Anniversary line is really nice.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, you're right. I think you're right about this one. This one is still maintaining that same consistent flavor throughout.
Yeah, doesn't change much. But it's a good, easy. It'd be a great golf course type of cigar. You know, when you're on the golf course, you want to smoke a cigar. You know, it's not gonna disappoint, but it's nothing like super complex that you have to pay attention to, and you know, it's just an easy cigar to smoke.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting about that. You see with the cigar you have to pay attention. Like something Alan and I were talking about in last week's show was there's certain cigars that I've tried that I would like to smoke, like the Lancero from Roma, the Adlo.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a cigar where I would like to pay attention to it. So I haven't smoked it. I only have one because I want to sit down and give it the due attention that it would like. I think it deserves. You know.
Sure. Well, that and then Lanceros are definitely cigars that you kind of inherently have to pay a little bit more attention to because, you know, the thinner ring gauge and the fact that they're kind of what's the word that I'm looking for?
The ratio?
No, just the fact that they're kind of delicate, you know.
Oh, wow.
So you know, if you drop it, it can get damaged, you know, or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like, so it can go out easy. You kind of have to baby it a little bit, and you have to make sure that you'll hear where you're talking, and sometimes, you know, a minute might go by, or a minute and a half might go by, I may have to take a puff. But, you know, on the Lancero, the chance of it going out, if you're not kind of smoking it, you know, steadily, so to speak, you're going to run that risk. And then, you know, relighting the cigar, you can do it, but it takes away from it a little bit.
So Tony says, when I was at Perdomo, a roller was required to roll 385 cigars a day, and they made less than $10 a week. So that's a lot of dedication.
That is a lot of dedication. So it's a lot of work. It's very meticulous too. I've tried rolling cigars.
Oh, that's difficult.
It is very difficult. In fact, I won. So when I went to my father's cigars, there was a rolling contest, and I actually ended up winning.
Oh,
I had help. So it was pretty cool, you know. So we all got a chance to roll cigars, and we had some help. You know, there was a roller, you know, helping, assisting with, you know, all we were doing was putting the wrapper on the cigar. So at the end, you know, Pepin was there, which was really cool, and
Pepin was judging.
He was the judge.
Oh, Jesus.
So, you know, this is a master cigar roller, and he got to judge the cigars at the end. So he get around in a circle and he looks at everybody's cigar, and then, you know, right off the bat, there was probably 12 or 14 cigars that were, you know, rolled one by each of us. And he eliminates like 5 or 6 of them right off the bat. And, you know, I made the cut. And basically, when he looked at mine, he was like, there's no way you rolled the cigar. It's like too good. It's perfect, you know? And I was like, no, Pepin, you know, I made this cigar. I had help, but I have a video of it. I'll show it to you, me rolling this cigar. And
he's like, you took that out of your pocket.
Yeah, he thought that it was, you know, either someone rolled it or it was something else that was already made, an unbanded finished cigar.
Come on, you slipped the guy $10 for his weekly salary.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, I ended up winning the competition, but I had to, you know, it took some convincing that I.
Oh, you really had to convince him. Wow.
Well, yeah, because he thought that I rolled it, you know, that it was too good to be enrolled by me.
So, like, were the other ones like, could you see them like messed up? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, the wrapper wasn't, you know, tightly rolled on there. I don't know exactly what, I didn't really look at other people's cigars, but I guess I don't know what he was going by, but he had certain criteria.
Well, so why would you look at other people's cigars when they suck?
Yeah, I guess. Anyway. So I jokingly said to him, I was like, listen, if being a cigar retailer doesn't pan out, you know, I want a job at the factory. I know where I can come back as a fallback career.
Nice. So do you recall like anything you did specifically that made it?
I asked for help.
Nobody else asked for help.
No, they all had help, but I think I got a little more help than everybody. But yeah, I just somehow, I guess won that competition. George is asking, did I smoke the award-winning cigar?
Yes, did.
I didn't, and I regret it. Unfortunately, it kind of got mixed in with a bundle of other cigars, and I don't even know what happened to that cigar, honestly. My idea was not to smoke it, was actually to kind of frame it and put it up in the shop, and then somehow it, I don't know, went unaccounted for. So it's just a story that will live on. I mean, I have witnesses, and you have
a video.
I have a video, and Tommy, who was our sales rep for my father, he was there, and we talk about this often. Whenever there's a my father event, we always mention that I won the cigar rolling competition. But unfortunately, I don't think I may have smoked it. I don't know. Without knowing.
Oh, that would have been good.
Excuse me for a second. I know that this isn't good etiquette, but I'm going to use the restroom.
Oh yeah, go ahead. The restroom's not too far away, so it shouldn't take too long. So if you're at home, tell us more about what you're smoking. Love to know more, and what you're drinking as well. Yeah, so this cigar, like Eric, you were asking earlier about, should you buy one? I think you should. I don't really recall the old the old Fonseca very well, but this does have I guess more of a characteristic that I would expect from that. It's definitely on the milder side. And those of you who know me, I tend to smoke a lot more stronger cigars, so I tend to gravitate towards a lot of the Roma Craft. So a lot of flavor, a lot of force. What do they call it? Testosterone kind of cigars, where this one is definitely a departure from that. So it's definitely milder. I wouldn't say it's smooth and creamy like certain cigars. This is, on the palate, I would say it's a little bit rougher in that respect. So it's not that smooth creaminess. It's a little bit rougher. It is it's kind of medium to full-bodied cigar. But it doesn't have let's say with the Intemperance Brazil a la Caraca type of cigar from Roma, that's got a lot of flavor. It's got a lot of strength. This one is a bit more muted than that. And so Tony says Pepin still holds a record for the most cigars rolled in Churchill's, rolled in a 4-hour period. 320. Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot. And then George is saying, coming down to the nub of a Tabernacle. Oh, the Tabernacle. How was that? How was that Tabernacle? And then the A Flores Maduro with a vodka martini. Oh, A Flores Maduro. That's kind of bold. I tend to find that if you're talking about the SP54, SP52, the 1975 series Bravada, I tend to find those to be nice and complex, nice spiciness, but a little bit more on I tend to find that if I was to smoke, let's say the Revenge, right, first, and then I smoke the SP54 after, I lose a lot of that flavor because my palate is already kind of overwhelmed. So I'm interested to see how it turns out for you. George liked the Tabernacle. He's going into the A Flores Maduro next.
Oh, okay.
All right, so there's something that I've been wanting to ask you about. So the last time I was in your shop last weekend, you had this Fuente cigar.
Oh, yeah.
In a green box.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit about this in the last week's show with Al, but tell me more about this.
So it's the Arturo Fuente Opus X that's it's made only for the Dubai market. It's only available in Dubai at, I guess, cigar shops in Dubai. Not every cigar shop, but...
Do you know what cigar shop it's available in there?
I'm not sure, honestly. I don't know. And then I think it's also available in duty-free. But the only way to get it is if you're traveling to Dubai, and you can purchase it there. It's an expensive cigar. I don't know if they're sold individually. I would presume that they're only sold by the box, if you can find it. And they're fairly expensive, even if you travel to Dubai.
Well, especially if you travel to Dubai.
Well, yeah, obviously, but not with the ticket to go there, and just having to be there is quite expensive. All the accommodations and whatnot. But
yeah, it's not cheap to go to Dubai.
Anyways, so we were able to get some because I actually know someone who is living there currently, and then I was able to hook up with them and kind of track down a couple of these boxes. So we have a few boxes at the store. Right now we just have one size available, the Robusto size, but there's two sizes that we were offering, Robusto and a Toro, and the packaging is amazing, just like a lot of the high-end Fuente stuff. I mean, there's the box itself is probably cost them $50 to make. It's gorgeous.
Because it's like that really nice piano lacquer, right?
Yeah, really nice piano lacquer. It's got the Dubai, country flag colors. It's very similar to like the Opus 20th box, if you've seen those blue and white boxes. It's essentially the same box, but then it's decorated to kind of go with the theme and the color of the Dubai cigars. But I haven't smoked one yet, but from what I've heard from people who have smoked them, it's nothing like any other Opus that exists. It's very sweet and kind of floral. So that's a rare treat, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper than traveling to Dubai. So you can come by the shop and pick one up if you're interested.
Now these are how much now?
So the Robusto we sell for $115 a cigar.
That's $115.
$115, yeah. And then the Toro is $125. So.
Wow. Now, why haven't you tried one?
I don't know. I have one set aside. I will get to it eventually. I was thinking about actually aging it for a little while just to see. But it would be good to smoke one fresh just to see what it's about and see how it progresses.
Now, is this some kind of cigar where they do a lot of aging to it before they release it? Or
it's definitely, I would imagine that it's aged. I don't know how long. But Opus, I know just in general, always benefits from age. And it's one of the cigars that ages really well because it's predominantly Dominican. And I think those cigars tend to age better than Nicaraguan cigars, for example. So Opus with some age is always, far better than a fresh Opus. Not to say that fresh Opus is smokable or is unsmokable, but it definitely, a lot of the flavor and the complexity that you'll get, and just how the flavors kind of tend to marry with one another over time is definitely more, appreciable.
Do you find that since you deal with a lot of Opus, do you find that there's an optimal aging time for them?
I would say like 3 to 5 years.
Wow.
I believe they're already aged 1 to 2 years before they even, roll. So the tobacco is aged, and then the cigars are rolled, and then they're aged, after being rolled in, Carlito's, wherever he keeps them. He has a special, humidor, or not humidor, but a special room in his factory that is only Opus, and they're aging for at least a year or so. These ones might actually be aged longer than that. I don't know. But they're definitely a very rare, very celebratory type of cigar.
Do you know if they do a lot of country releases like that?
This is the first, to my knowledge. I mean, I know that they've done some other cigars specifically for Dubai. They did another duty-free release previously. But to my knowledge, that's the only cigar that they've done that's exclusively for another country or another region. There's some cigars that are made only for Casa Fuente in Las Vegas. And that's just, called a Casa Fuente cigar. But to my knowledge, that's it. But Fuente does a lot of really under the radar type of cigars. He's kind of known for doing a lot of these really special shapes and sizes and variations and stuff like that. And there's a huge following for those products and very high demand for that stuff. But it's kept kind of low key, hush hush, so to speak. So you don't really see them out in the wild, at cigar shops. Often, a lot of these very rare cigars that he makes.
Now, was this something that someone went there to pick them up and bring them back?
Well, yeah, not specifically for. There was just someone that I was traveling back from Dubai that I.
So during the pandemic, they were traveling.
Yeah,
wow.
Apparently.
Awesome.
So yeah, it was a rare find, and we still have some. But I'm surprised how quickly they sold. In fact, we already went through almost a box and a half at that price. I thought that they would sit around for a while, but the guys that want, high end rare stuff, a lot of times, they don't really, they just want to have it. It's one of those types of cigars.
So do you have quite a number of guests that are collectors or people that enjoy these rare? And
yeah, there's a good amount. And, Fuente is one of those brands that, especially with their rare, Opus and high-end cigars, they just have a following of people that they'll pay whatever for something rare. They don't really care. I guess within reason, but $100 for a cigar now isn't that far-fetched. There's quite a few cigars that are in that realm of as far as price tag. There's a few by Davidoff. There's a few by several brands now. As crazy as that sounds.
Have you tried any of those?
The only one that I've had, actually, there's a Cohiba that I've had, the Spectre. That was like around $100 cigar. I don't smoke those high dollar cigars often, only because when I smoke, a lot of times I'm at the shop, so I don't want to smoke a cigar like that at the store. I've had some,
it's about paying attention to regular.
Exactly. I've had some really high end Cuban cigars. Like I had a Monte Cristo Gran Reserva, which is like a $70 or $80 cigar or something like that. But honestly, I didn't really find it to be that impressive. It was mediocre at best.
I wonder if, because we have such accessibility to Nicaraguan that have, or a range of cigars here in the United States that have such much more flavorful profiles. And I wonder if a lot of times you go to a lot of these Cubans, they're just more, I guess, milder than what we're used to. So maybe they're a little bit more disappointing in that respect.
I had this conversation with a customer the other day talking about cooking, for example. So, all of these other cigars that come from Nicaragua, Honduras, Dominican Republic, all these other cigar makers outside of Cuba, they're cooking with, such a vast array of ingredients, whereas Cuban cigar makers nowadays, they claim to be still 100% Cuban tobacco. Cuba's only a country, it's only so big, and they only have certain areas where they plant and grow and harvest tobacco. So how much variation can you really get? There's so many brands, so many different sizes and lines. They kind of all taste the same to an extent. They have a very unique taste and something that's inherent to them that you don't really experience from other regions and other countries, but they're not really that much different, from one another. Whereas you smoke a Nicaraguan cigar, it might be made in Nicaragua, but it has a binder. It has fillers from all different regions of Nicaragua, and then it has a binder from Brazil or whatever. It has a wrapper from Connecticut, Connecticut broadleaf or whatever the case may be. So now you have all these different ingredients that you're using and materials that you're using that all yield distinct flavors. So you have a lot more ability to kind of produce something that's unique and different than someone who's working in Cuba that's using the same stuff.
Yeah, I think in Cuba that's mandated by the government that they can use too.
Yeah.
So let's see what Rusty has. Rusty says 115. Yes, 115. And wasn't there also a Partagas Cuban that was around the same price range? Do you recall that?
I don't recall that. I know that there was some Partagas 150s that that came out years ago, maybe back in 95 or something like that.
For the 150 kind of version.
Yeah, so there was some very expensive Partagas cigars that were Dominican that used this special Cameroon wrapper, and they weren't quite that expensive at that time, but they're fetching that price now just because of how expensive they are. How rare they are, and pretty much now I'm sure there's collectors who have some, but you don't really see them anymore. So I think people are charging $100 some odd per stick. Same thing with the Padron Millenniums. When the Padron Millenniums came out in the early 2000s, they were like $30 or $40 a cigar, if I recall at that time. And now people are paying $100 some odd per stick for those cigars, just because they're no longer made. They've never been made since then, and they're extremely rare. Because because a lot of them have whatever the set production amount was at that time. You know, you figure a large percentage of that has been consumed.
Yeah.
There's just less in the market.
Yeah, with the Partagas 150, they came out in '95, and the story behind them was evidently Partagas, the company, or I guess it was General at the time, whatever the company was, they found in their warehouse 18-year-old wrapper, and they made the cigars that year from those wrappers.
Yeah. The Cuban Partagas factory was founded, I guess, in 1845. So 150 years later, it marked 150 years of the Partagas brand being in existence. So they wanted to do something really special for that.
Yeah, and the one that you're talking about, I think when you're talking about that, like Tony says, they go for $300 or so nowadays. Wow. That's the Don Ramon, which is, it came in, I guess they were Churchill size.
It came in a wooden, it was like an A size or something. It was like,
no, it wasn't that big.
It wasn't an A? Okay. It was in a...
I have a box of those.
In a coffin. Wow.
I bought it. But, you know, back then
you
it was...
sell them for $300 a stick.
I should sell it.
Should. Are you ever going to smoke
them? That way
them?
I could keep my... Well, you know, when I first got them, I first got them and I earmarked them. I decided I was going to smoke one for my wedding, one for my first
When's
child,
that happening?
And then one for my divorce. So it was well planned now. But I never smoked any of them because those milestones have yet to come.
Have yet to occur.
But I did smoke one for my 50th birthday.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
So you didn't crack them? Oh, you did crack them?
I did.
How was it?
Good.
Yeah.
I wonder, you know, I should have smoked one back in the day.
Right.
So that I would have some semblance of like memory of
sure.
what it was like.
If you can remember 1995.
Yeah. Well, no, I can barely remember, you know,
yesterday.
August. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes, a lot of times, these cigars come around and we tend to put them like on this pedestal, so to speak. And, you know, you try to find the right occasion to smoke something special. And I get that to a degree because, you know, you buy a really rare cigar like that that's produced in such limited quantities or super expensive. You're not going to just light it up on like a random Tuesday or, you know, Tuesday afternoon or, you know, evening or whatever. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, maybe we should. But at the same time, you know, you try to look for a special occasion, but, you know, shit, tomorrow's never promised, you know, so you never know what's going to happen. And sometimes you just have to kind of live in that moment and try to enjoy something for what it is, you know. The reality is a lot of these rare cigars, they've already been aged. They're ready to smoke. And, you know, if you're lucky enough to have several of them, then you should definitely try one, you know, shortly after purchasing it in the right time, but don't wait too long because, like you said, you kind of live in regret in some respects.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that's
like, so I get it. I get both sides. There's two sides to that coin. You know, so
yeah, but if you wait and wait and wait, then you may wait forever.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you know, the cigars, they're not necessarily getting any better. You know, so you're waiting, thinking that, oh, it's going to improve or it's going to be special. And then you kind of build it up to this point where whenever you're ready to smoke it, it's never going to live up to the expectation you have for it. And it's not fair. It's not fair to the cigar. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You've just, you know, in your mind, you've created this really unachievable, you know, thing. Yeah, that you're never going to reach. So long ago, I mean, within the last year or so, I had this stash of cigars that I was like saving for. I had no idea when I was going to get around to smoking, but then I decided this is stupid. You know, what am I doing this for? So I just started smoking them.
Now, were they any particular cigar you were saving?
No, nothing particular. Just some rare cigars that I had either purchased over time or you know had collected or had been given to me, and it was, you know, like for example, I remember Tony gave me this cigar. It was a Davidoff. What was it, Tony? A Special R maybe, or it may have been it was a number 3 in a wooden coffin, and he had given it to me when we opened the store.
You mean the new store?
The new store. Okay. And it was, you know, probably, I think he had told me 10, 15 years age or something like that. And I just lit it up the day he gave it to me. When he came in, you know, I smoked it that day, and I enjoyed it. Still have the coffin that it came in. But so I try not to like put cigars away for a later date too often, sometimes, but I try to get to them sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's probably the best idea. Do you have a lot of guests that are saving or buying and aging cigars like that?
There's some, but the typical average customer doesn't ever get into like aging cigars. It's just a lot of times people buy cigars, they smoke them, and when they're out, they come back to buy more. Very few people are actually like aging cigars with the intention of aging them and smoking them, later at its later date. And there are people that I know that are like that, but those guys are really avid cigar smokers, and they're not working with desktop humidors. They're working with like rooms in their basement that were converted into walk-in, kind of similar to what you have actually, or really nice
Psychos, in other words, psychos.
I guess you could call them. But people who have cabinet-style humidors that are really really nice aging humidors, those are the people that as a tobacconist you want to develop those types of customers, because that means you have an opportunity to sell a whole bunch of cigars. But you reach a point like with anything, when you have enough cigars, then you realize, man, I have all these cigars, I got to start smoking. When are you going to get to them?
That's exactly what we talked about last week. Is like like you said, I do have a bit of cigars, and I wonder, my gosh, how much time do I have left to smoke them?
Yeah, you could probably smoke 3 or 4 a day, not buy a single one for probably the next 5 or 10 years, and probably still be fine. Right?
Yeah.
So that's an impressive collection, and then you reach this point, I guess, where you get to that realization that I might as well smoke these.
But do you also get to the point where, and so with some of your guests that have this level of collections, do they also get to the point where they may walk into their humidor, they look at what they have, and they're like, well, you know what? I don't know if that really fits my flavor profile now, so I want to go to what I'm smoking now.
I mean, yeah, that happens too, because your tastes change over years, and that's one of the unfortunate things of building or amassing a really large collection like that, is that you might grow past a certain cigar or style, flavor or type of cigar, and you just it doesn't do anything for you. So
yeah, like I've got this box of these small, like I guess they're petit Coronas, or even smaller, of Fonseca 2.2s.
Mm-hmm.
That must be, when I got them, they must have been at least 10 years old. And Fonsecas are relatively light compared to what I normally smoke, so I've never actually smoked them. So it's like, oh man, maybe I should be. But this one is doing pretty well. I mean, it's still, the flavor profile is still relatively static, but I'm actually feeling the strength now. Like after smoking all of this, I'm like,
yeah,
I can feel it.
A lot of times that happens. It's just it's there. You just don't necessarily. It's not really forward in its taste. You don't necessarily feel it right away, but it will catch up for sure.
Yeah. So George is saying, as a simple public servant, I'll stick with my 10 to 15 a stick. If he hits the lottery, he'll upgrade his cigar selection.
There's nothing wrong with the $10 to $15 stick. I mean, I know what you smoke, George. You have good taste, and sometimes you want to have something special, and like you open that nice bottle of Hess wine. I'm sure sometimes, I mean, it's a Thursday night tonight, and you had a really nice bottle of wine. So sometimes you just feel like having something special, It doesn't have to be an occasion. Sometimes it is an occasion. It's just, sometimes the occasion is just you sitting down and smoking that cigar. You make it an occasion by smoking something special. So that's the beautiful thing about cigars.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So on that note, anything else to add?
I don't know. What else should we add?
I don't know.
So Tony says I should smoke the 2.2s because they're probably delicious. You're probably right about that. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow.
And then you can talk about it next week.
Right.
Tell everybody your experience.
Yeah, what'd you smoke this week? Anything that comes to mind?
No, nothing new, nothing noteworthy.
And you're smoking every day, pretty much.
It depends. Sometimes there's days where I don't smoke at all at the shop. It just depends on what's going on that day. And, we've been just been working on a bunch of different things lately. So sometimes there isn't time. And like I said, at the shop, I try not to smoke anything that I really want to try to, enjoy or pay attention to. A lot of times it's just like damaged cigars that I'll smoke where there's, some imperfection or the wrapper is, has a little gash in it or whatever. And I'll just smoke them in the store. So, that way, if I have to put it down or I don't finish, I don't feel too bad about it.
Yeah. So the new store's doing well?
Yeah, things are going well. And, we're just, at this point, taking it a day at a time. It's a very interesting time. Nothing that we could have obviously, foreseen with the current state of affairs. But, we're happy, very happy.
Now, those of us that have known you for a while, you had this shop in the Jessup that was very successful. Why go to this next level that you've gone to? Like, why go to this incredible expansion and expense to building this what really is a destination shop?
It was more like kind of a lot of reasons. We had outgrown our space. We wanted to kind of offer something different, but really it was my way of putting my stamp on our business, on our family business. So my father started the business years ago, 1982, in a mall. We had a lot of mall stores, various mall stores, and the business has changed a lot. And in the last 10 or 15 years, it's kind of turned into more of a hospitality-based business. So, our shop at the old location in Jessup, even though, like you said, we were very successful, it was our first attempt at a cigar lounge. And, we realized some of our mistakes. We wanted to kind of do something a little bit nicer and kind of address some of the shortcomings that we thought we had. And, it was basically a way to, move our business, what I thought was the best way to move our business forward. I didn't necessarily want to have multiple locations or branch out, in that regard and grow our business that way. I just kind of wanted to do something that was unique and something that was going to be special that people would talk about and, kind of refer to as like, well, if you're ever in the area or, you got to check out this place, I wanted to be in those types of conversations, not really, that's
just another cigar shop.
Yeah, just another cigar shop. So that was really the impetus behind, doing this elaborate build out and going through, this whole kind of expensive and lengthy and, arduous process. It was really out of love and out of passion and just to kind of deliver something unique to our customers that I think, hopefully that they would appreciate it. It seems like, they have been.
Well, I mean, it's if you haven't been there, when you walk in, it really is a statement. Like the humidor, you see it and you're like, holy God, this is like crazy.
It's not like it's something that you would expect to see in like a big, metropolitan city. You wouldn't expect to see it in Jessup, Maryland, across from a jail and a truck stop, and we're surrounded by these seedy motels and things like that. So, it really is something very unique. But I think that's kind of what makes it really special, and it's just a unique place. So we want people that are ever going to be in that area. Like we want them to make it a point to to stop. We wanted to make something like that. So a lot of people do, and the word is slowly but surely it's getting out. So
I've had the opportunity to travel, not just across the country, but in other
across the world. Yeah.
And, it definitely is on par with a lot of the really great places I've been to.
Thank you. Well,
how are the manufacturers responding to it?
Yeah, all the manufacturers that have visited love it. They're always very impressed because, like you said, they travel across the country and there's been a lot of talks about like, well, you should franchise this, and do something like this. It's a cool concept. But, I always just kind of laugh that off. I think everyone that comes by is always very impressed by it. And that makes me really proud because these are people that are in this business, and they're doing this, they're traveling the country, traveling the world in some senses or in some cases, and they can say that the building, you know, and the location that we've created is up there with some of the best that they've ever seen or visited. I mean, that's a true, you know, compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, let's see what I have to say. George says, I agree with that, Rahul. If I have a special cigar, it needs to be in a special place with good company. That's true. That's true.
You should come to Tobacco Leaf. We can smoke one together.
Now you're having a cigar dinner soon, right?
Yeah, so we've been doing these cigar dinners at Roots Chris in Pikesville. They've been very successful. We actually have a trio of them coming up. So it's the same dinner, but spread across 3 nights. You can pick and choose which one you want to come to, which night works best for you. But it's a great value. You know, it's a 5-course meal paired with, in this case, it'll be 5 Whistle Pig whiskeys and 3 Davidoff cigars. So I mean, the cigars.
Davidoff cigars.
Yeah. Davidoff. So I mean, the cigars themselves are probably like a $50 or $60 value. The Whistle Pig whiskey is also rare whiskeys that, you know, you can't always just buy, you know, on the shelf at any liquor store. And the menu itself and the food is phenomenal. So it's a great value. It's a great time because you can smoke, drink, and eat all in the same place. The service is great. It's just a very enjoyable evening. You know, you meet a lot of new people. There's a lot of familiar faces often because it's a lot of guys, you know, a lot of men and women that come to our shop. But it's been a great partnership. We've been doing it for the last few years. It's been a lot of fun. So it's an experience. It's a fun time. You know,
now, how many people can you do per night?
We're doing on average. This will be about 50 or 60 people attending each night. So
that's quite a bit of people.
Yeah, I mean, the last one that we did was a couple weeks ago. We had 100 people come to that dinner, and
but then that was also at Ruth Chris.
It was also at Ruth Chris. It was about 3 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks.
This is Ruth Chris in Pikesville, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are still more spaces.
There are, I believe, a few more, but it's nearing capacity. It's so I think now anyone who calls will be put on a wait list, and then what we'll do is we just monitor the weather that day, and then if the weather is nice, we'll be able to accommodate more people. But you know, we're getting into a time of year where things cool down. There's rain and things like that. So basically, we can offer 50 to 60 guaranteed seats, and you know, if the weather is inclement or not ideal, we can cover the space, and it can be heated or cooled or whatever, and we can still guarantee that, you know, we can have a fun, enjoyable evening. Because if you have, you know, if we would have tried to get everybody to come out at one night, right now it's a little difficult because of COVID and social distancing and some of the measures that the restaurant has to take to ensure everyone's safety. But you know, to accommodate everybody all at one night would have been difficult. So that's why we decided to kind of break it up into 3 smaller dinners.
Oh, nice. All right. That's good.
So yeah, try to come if you can.
Hey, what? Just call you?
Call actually Ruth Chris in Pikesville. You can look up their phone number, give them a call, and make a reservation.
All right, excellent. And so I guess that's going to wrap it up. And so next week we're doing the who's this in Mil Diaz?
Mil Diaz by Crown Heads.
Oh, Crown Heads. Crown Heads Mil Diaz.
Cigar. It's been doing
the
really
Sojourn. The Sojourn cigar. And then the week after that we're doing the week after that? I forgot to write them down. Anyway, so
Stay tuned.
If you want the cigars, they're actually in the show notes below. Oh, they're actually here. I can look at them right here. Oh, then on the 15th, we're doing the EP Carrillo Pledge, Sojourn. The Crown Heads Mil Diaz Edmundo is next week. And then the 22nd is the Herrera Esteli Miami. And these are all cigars you have still?
Yes. Also, yeah.
Because I got them at your shop last week.
They're everything that we have, and they're all great cigars. I think you and your guests are going to enjoy them.
All right. So make sure you give Rahul a call if you want to try these cigars. You'll send them out, right?
We can ship them
all right,
to YouTube. Yeah.
All right. So I guess that's it for tonight. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next Thursday at 8 o'clock. Have a great evening.
Take care. Good night.
Where are you?